Hi, my name is Vivian Finch, and I'm an Assistant Director here at the Center for Teaching, and today we're going to be talking about backward design basics. Backward design is a planning framework to help instructors focus more on outcomes, not inputs, so the student use and grasp of content and not necessarily content coverage, to keep long-term goals in view in short-term instruction and assessment, and to better engage learners. Backward design comes from Wiggins and McTighe's understanding by design, which is really an opportunity for instructors to better align their courses between content and learning objectives. So there are 3 stages of backward design. The first stage is to identify desired results, or in other words, to create learning objectives for your course. So one way to think about this, and a question that you might ask yourself, is what is it that I want learners to understand and know and be able to do? The second stage is determining acceptable evidence. This is really what evidence is going to show that students have met those learning objectives that you've created for them. A question you might ask yourself here is, how will I know they know what I want them to know? And stage 3 is planning learning experiences. This is really the on-the-ground planning, the day-to-day planning of activities and assessments that students are going to go through that's going to move them towards those learning objectives. So a question you might ask yourself here is, what do I need to do to prepare my students to successfully meet the assessment criteria? So for now, we're going to stick with stage number 1, which is identify desired results. So this is really about creating learning objectives for your course. And sometimes when we create learning objectives, we can get so excited we all of a sudden have 20 learning objectives. One way to filter through those learning objectives is to consider the following 3 categories that we see here. So the outermost circle or category is worth being familiar with. This is information that, while interesting and maybe mildly useful, doesn't necessarily fall within the core of the student learning experience. The second circle in, or category, is important to know and do. This is knowledge and skill building that is foundational for students to be able to do in order to move towards deeper understandings in the course. And at the very center, that circle or category is enduring understandings. So this is really the most crucial or important category of learning objectives. And this is really what you want your students to carry with them long after the course is over. The second stage of backward design is determining acceptable evidence. So what evidence can students generate that will show that they've met those learning objectives that you've set forth for them? And how are you going to collect that evidence? Another word for this stage might be assessment. So with assessment, there are a few things to take into consideration. The first is formative versus summative assessments. So formative assessments are meant to monitor student learning along the way of the course. And these generally tend to be lower stakes assignments or activities that give students an opportunity to receive feedback from you so that they can improve their learning. Summative assessments, on the other hand, tend to be larger assignments, more cumulative assignments that really rely on evaluation of student learning. So you might consider here more traditional assessments such as big tests or large essays, midterm exam, final exam. Those all fall within the category of summative assessments. Other factors to consider might be contextual factors. So the time that you have for a single class session might vary depending on the course or time of day that you're teaching. The size of the group of students that you might have. So if you're teaching a seminar course, the odds are that that group of students is probably going to be on the smaller side, whereas if you're teaching a large introductory course, you might have upwards of 100 students in your course. Also, available technology may impact the ways in which you think about assessment in your course. You may not be teaching in a smart classroom, or the level of access that you or your students have to certain technologies may be limited for any number of reasons. Instructor-related factors can also come into play. So the comfort and expertise that instructors have in using certain techniques or technologies may vary depending on the instructor, where one instructor might feel totally comfortable using new innovative technology, another instructor may not, and that's okay. The most important thing here is, as an instructor, to leverage your strengths and expertise to create a course that's comfortable for both you and your students. The last category is learner-related factors. In this category, it's really important to get to know the students that might walk into your course. So if you are teaching an introductory course, you may have a fair number of first-year or second-year students who may or may not end up majoring in your discipline. Whereas if you're teaching an upper-level course in your department, you may have a lot more majors than undeclared students. And that may impact the ways in which you think about your course design and the assessments that you choose for your course. Another component of assessment that you may consider in your planning is classroom assessment techniques. Classroom assessment techniques fall on the side of formative assessment. It's a great way to collect information about how your students are learning in your course. And this is by no means an exhaustive list, but rather just a collection of examples across type of learning content, questions that you might be asking through these techniques, and different structures for what those techniques might look like. So if you want to know more about what your students have learned prior to your course, you may conduct a background knowledge probe. If you're interested in understanding what students' biggest takeaway from one class session or the thing that they struggled with the most in that same session, you might ask them what the muddiest and clearest point is from that day. Or you might, if you want to know a little bit more about how your students are thinking about a particular topic or important question in your course, you might have them write a minute paper, which really gives them an opportunity to put down on paper how it is that they're thinking or feeling or valuing that particular topic. The last stage of backward design is planning learning experiences. So this is really the on-the-ground, day-to-day planning that you might do for your course. One way to think about this is coverage versus uncoverage. So for a lot of instructors, there can be a pressure to feel like you have to cover a certain amount of content within the span of your course. And this can often lead to feeling like you have to pack as much as you can into a single class session. It often makes it difficult to give students time to kind of grapple with ideas and dig deeper. And it can also feel like a rushed experience for both the instructor and the students. Uncoverage, on the other hand, is really meant as an opportunity to select content that is really going to highlight and help students work towards those learning objectives that you've identified for the course. It carves out time and space for students to grapple with foundational ideas and topics, and gives students an opportunity to really apply what it is that they're experiencing, that they're learning, and move towards deeper understandings or those enduring understandings in the course. Another example for how to think about that on-the-ground day-to-day planning is through Kolb's experiential learning cycle. So this cycle is really meant as an opportunity for students to engage with a particular experience and move through a process of reflection, conceptualization, and then experimentation that really moves them along that continuum towards those enduring understandings. So we start off with a concrete experience. Students might be reading a text for the first time or watching a video or listening to a song. This is a really open opportunity in terms of what you determine that experience to be. The next stage is a reflective observation. So students have a chance to look back on that concrete experience, think about where it fits in terms of what they've learned up until this point in time, think about whether that experience introduces new information that they're having to grapple with. They can think about it within the context of does that experience have any flaws or any holes that they might see? And they can also reflect on how they participated in that experience. So there are multiple levels of reflection that are possible in that stage. So once students have reflected, they move towards abstract conceptualization. So this is an opportunity to really connect theory with the experience. So the theory that underpins that particular topic, and really grapple at a higher level with what's going on behind the scenes of that experience. And once students have had a chance to grapple with that theory, they move to the next stage, which is active experimentation or application. So say the concrete experience was watching a video of a scene from a play. Well, in active experimentation, they might recreate that scene together with their peers and maybe put a new spin on it as a result of some of the work that they did with the reflective observation and the abstract conceptualization. And as a result, they can really apply what it is that they've learned in those previous steps and use it to move towards those learning objectives that you've set forth for them. So at the end of the day, backward design is a framework to help ensure your students and you reach desired learning outcomes. And if you'd like more help with designing a course using backward design or any other teaching-related approach, please reach out to us here at the Center for Teaching. We're always happy to help. Thanks.